Okay everybody, we're back for our second example of positive usage and how that can improve your writing. Here I have another passage, 4 sentences, 66 words. Again, pretty typical of most developing writers, most freshman writers, in that it's primarily a simple sentence structure. Okay? Beyond that, there's nothing wrong with it per se. Everything's capitalized, end marks are there. That's good. So there's nothing wrong with it. But there is a better way to write this passage, a more concise way, and that's the benefit, one of the benefits of writing with appositives when applicable. I should point out, I didn't point out in the first video, that it's not always applicable to use appositives in your writing. Thinking back to our definition of appositives, a word or a group of words that describes, gives information about, or names a noun, you're going to find that the cases where the writing itself describes or goes on to give information about nouns, that's the kind of writing that lends itself to being able to make it more concise via this method. So if you take a look at my passage here, I have 4 sentences, 66 words. The passage is as follows. The doomsday clock is a symbolic clock that is used to represent how close humankind is to complete and total nuclear annihilation. The doomsday clock was developed in the late 1940s by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists is a group of the world's foremost experts on thermonuclear war. According to the doomsday clock, the current time is 6 minutes to midnight. Pretty scary stuff, right? Right. So again, I look at this passage, I read the passage, and I recognize right away I'm introducing a noun, the doomsday clock, that's our noun, and I'm going on to describe it. I go on to describe what it represents, when it was developed, and then I go on to give information about another noun, in this case, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. So I'm going to continue to describe them. So in this one passage here, which is 66 words, I essentially am talking about 2 nouns. So this is the perfect kind of writing, very typical writing of developing writers, that lends itself to being more concise. Okay? So my rewrite that follows will be an example of using appositives. But a point of emphasis, writing is not absolute. No writers write the same. It's much like painting. So when you're doing these rewrites, if your example doesn't follow mine verbatim or word for word, that's okay. Remember our goal. We're trying to make it more concise without cutting out anything of meaning or essence. And we're trying to do that by using appositives, which will increase our readability as well. So we'll take a look at this passage. I don't know what the readability is. I haven't done a readability test on it yet, but something like this is probably going to be maybe freshman level. Again, readability takes into account things like syllable count, frequency of words, commonality of words, punctuation, and other stuff that Microsoft Word uses. So let's do a quick review. We'll check the readability of this passage. 10.5 is our readability. So this passage is written at about a sophomore in high school. Fairly accurate. And although it's simple sentence structure, because of the syllable count, thermonuclear annihilation, humankind, symbolic, those multi-syllable words will in fact give it a higher readability. So my rewrite, again using an appositive for conciseness, here's your visual, using appositives for conciseness and color coding it for your viewing pleasure, I come up with, or I end up with 49 words in one sentence. So again, thinking back to my definition on what an appositive is, here I have a noun, a clock. That's a noun. Because I have the noun there from this point on, from the article A all the way to the end of my second noun, all of that is an appositive. Remember, it can be one word, or in this case, many words. So I'm describing my noun as a symbolic clock that represents how close humankind is to total nuclear annihilation that was created in the early 1940s by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. So I'm describing the clock as that, and then I have my second noun. I'm describing that by using an appositive phrase in red as a group of the world's foremost experts on thermonuclear warfare. Okay, so notice in both cases, since my appositive phrase is not at the beginning or the end of the sentence, I'm going to have 2 commas separating them. 1 and 2 for my first appositive phrase, and 1 and 2 for my second appositive phrase. That's an important consideration because comma usage, while on the surface may not seem like a big deal, that's the type of issue that is recurrent in writing. So it becomes very problematic for the reader because you get into things like breath units. So whatever message you are trying to send is often interrupted because of the lack of or too many commas in some cases. But again, coming back to appositives, I've managed to make it more concise by saying the same thing, or writing in this case the same thing in fewer words or fewer sentences. And let's do a readability test on this. I have not taken out anything of essence or of value. The meaning has not changed. Let's do the readability test. Okay. Again, I don't want to do anything in parentheses. I just want to check the readability of this passage. Okay. This is showing a Flesch-Kincaid grade level readability of 23.9. Now, what does that mean? I don't know if that means grade 24. That seems, really, really high level, but the end result is it's a more concise passage, okay? 23.9 Flesch-Kincaid grade level, 49 words in 1 sentence. Cautionary note here, the Flesch-Kincaid grade level, it can be defeated, so it's not something you want to get hung up on as far as your own writing. Like anything else, it's a tool that you want to be mindful of and understand when the application is available to use it. But sometimes students tend to write an entire essay and go back and do a grade level readability check, and it might be a very well written piece and they get hung up because it's too low. With appositives, not every passage that you write will lend itself to using appositives. Remember, we look for that indicator of what are we talking about contextually, so you know if you're dealing with a bunch of nouns that are repeatedly described or named, or information is provided to. Those are the type of passages that lend itself to there. But you can see the proof is in the pudding and people recognize it.